Single dad discovers his babysitter is a CEO's hidden daughter, an inspiring twist in their lives. Jake Thompson wiped his brow as he leaned over the hood of a rusted pickup, the sound of metal clanging resonating through the garage. The scent of oil mixed with sweat defined his world, one where he poured every ounce of effort into his work. As a mechanic in a small Midwestern town, he hustled daily to keep the family afloat, his spirited 10-year-old daughter, Lily, waiting at home. Together they tackled the struggles of life, yet his pride in teaching her values like hard work and integrity often felt overshadowed by the weight of his responsibilities. Then, he hired Emma, an eager college student looking for extra cash. Her bubbly personality seemed a perfect fit, but as time passed, Jake couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Emma's enthusiasm provided light in their home, a stark contrast to his relentless grind, yet something in her bright eyes felt like a mask. He admired the way she engaged with Lily, making crafts and bringing laughter to their evenings, but her past remained an enigma. Every moment spent working alongside her opened up questions he wasn't sure if he wanted answered. What darkness lay beneath her surface? Jake's mind raced as he confronted the mounting repair bills that loomed like dark clouds on the horizon. An unforeseen breakdown in his garage set his finances spiraling. Would he be able to keep the shop afloat? Or worse, would he lose the tiny bit of control he dared to hold? Then the scandal broke about Emma's father, the potent businessman wrapped in corruption, a father he never knew. He winced at the thought, choking back memories of his own father's failures. Could he allow Emma, despite the whispers of her origins, to stay so close to Lily? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Emma and Lily painted together in the living room, their laughter echoed off the walls, a bittersweet reminder of the happiness he desperately wanted to protect. But with rising tensions, the unease gnawed at him, fate dancing dangerously close to upheaval. He wasn't just a single dad anymore, he felt the pressure of making a choice that could spiral out of control. The thought of losing everything, the shop, his livelihood, and Lily's happiness gripped him tightly. Jake weighed the implications of supporting Emma while safeguarding his daughter's world. Loyalty was one thing, but the stakes couldn't have been higher. Trust was hanging by a thread, and underneath the caution, remnants of fear began to fester. As the scandal unfolded, it threatened to envelop their lives. Should he expose the truth and potentially save others from Emma's father's legacy of greed? Or would such a choice destroy them all? The shadows of loyalty and integrity loomed over Jake like a shroud. Hearts would clash, secrets would break, and the weight of a father's love contended against the onslaught of a tornado brewing in a world where family ties bore no honorable standard. As Jake closed his eyes, a dreadful realization gripped him. He was about to face the darkest storm of his life, one that could unravel everything he ever fought for. Jake clenched his fists, feeling the rough metal of the pickup beneath him yet unable to focus on the task at hand. The rhythmic clanking of tools no longer provided comfort, every sound echoed his sense of impending chaos. He had always prided himself on working tirelessly to make ends meet, but suddenly, his existence felt like a precarious balancing act. As he squinted under the hood, his mind drifted. The weight of trust lingered heavily on his conscience. Emma's arrival had brought unexpected light into their lives, yet the shadows cast by her heritage were now impossible to ignore. Each laugh shared between her and Lily haunted him, stirring an unsettling blend of admiration and protective instinct. Decision loomed like a specter. Should he confront Emma? He knew he needed to understand how deep her ties buried into her father's corrupt life. But fear tangled with the thought. For every second he hesitated, he wrestled with a gnawing sense of betrayal. Could he really lay bare his doubts when it could cost them the joy they had fostered in this skewed little family? His inner turmoil surfaced every evening. Dinner table conversations became strained. Jake felt himself withdrawing as he watched Lily blossom under Emma's affection. Words faltered, moments slipped away, and every shared glance between Emma and Lily only fueled his growing paranoia. Was he simply being protective, or was he on the cusp of losing something precious to a past he couldn't control? One night, insecurities clawed at him until he snapped. After Lily had gone to bed, he steeled himself to speak with Emma. He found her on the creaky old porch, mulling over something on her phone. The evening air was thick with unspoken words, and his heart raced. "Emma," he began, hesitant. She paused, looking up at him, delight vanishing from her eyes. "What's up?" He fought to maintain his composure, weighing his words carefully. "About your father, things are coming to light. It's messy." Her expression morphed, something shadowy and wounded flashed across her face. "Messy doesn't even cover it," she whispered, almost to herself. Jake's gut clenched at her sadness, but the determination surged within him. "I need to know what you're going through. What does this mean for you? For Lily?" She shook her head, vulnerability pouring through her demeanor. "You think I chose this? To be connected to someone like him? Do you think I want this life?" He softened, feeling the walls of her defenses crack. "No. I need to protect my daughter. That's all I care about." "Protect her from what, exactly?" "Me?" The question struck like a hammer. Jake recoiled inwardly, the irony wasn't lost on him. His instinct to safeguard was morphing into an impulse to isolate. "I can't keep pretending." "Things are going to change," Emma said, determination springing forth like a spark from a weary flame. "I want to let my father's mistakes define who I am." Her intensity resonated deeply in Jake, as fragments of her resolve intertwined with his burgeoning fears. A clarity broke through the fog. He realized he needed to confront not just Emma but his own approach to the impending storm. "I won't abandon you," he found himself saying, surprising both of them. "But we need to face this together." As they steadied their breaths amidst the uncertainty, Jake couldn't shake the sense that they were merely on the brink of a greater crisis. There was one confrontation hanging in the air, waiting to arise. The question remained, lurking in the void between them: would Emma uncover the truth of her father's corrupt empire before it devoured them? Tomorrow, he'd have to make an even more pressing decision, one that would either shatter their fragile alliance or solidify it. The morning sun filtered through the tattered curtains, throwing streaks of gold across Jake's face as he sat at the small kitchen table. His coffee sat cold, its steam long faded, but the brewing dread overshadowed any desire for warmth. Today would not be about routines, it demanded confrontation, a reckoning that rattled at his bones. As he absently stirred his coffee, memories flooded back: Emma joking with Lily, their laughter free and bright. But those images twisted into the shadows lurking in his mind. Could he truly trust her? A doubt that gnawed deeper than he wished refused to be silenced. Jake stood up abruptly, the chair scraping harshly against the floor. He needed clarity, not just for himself, but for Lily too. He moved with purpose toward the living room, intent on finding a moment alone with Emma before the chaos of the day unfolded. But as he stepped through the doorway, he found Lily's eyes wide with excitement, her small hands gripping a brightly colored notebook. "Look, Dad. I'm writing a story about a detective," she announced proudly, oblivious to the charged atmosphere. He smiled, feeling a flicker of pride. "That's great, sweetheart. Maybe I could help you with it later. Can we make it a mystery, like with secret codes?" Lily leaned in, her imagination ablaze. Jake chuckled softly, even as the weight of his own mystery loomed larger. "Sure, we can make it a whole adventure." As he turned to call for Emma, a lump formed in his throat. How could he craft a narrative to explain the uncertainty that threatened their home? Just then, he heard her footsteps, and she entered the room, her expression a mixture of hope and anxiety, mirroring his own. "Good morning," she said, with a tentative smile that could shatter the tension between them. "Morning," he replied, wanting to dive into the core of their issues but hesitating, the moment feeling fragile. "Lily's been telling me about her story idea," Emma said, kneeling beside their daughter, her eyes sparkling with genuine interest. This was the Emma he had been drawn to, the nurturing side that made him abandon his doubts, at least temporarily. Yet, as they stood together, an urgent thought clawed at him. "Emma, we need to talk," he declared firmly. Her gaze shifted from Lily to him, anticipation mixed with fear. "About my father?" "Yes." He took a deep breath, forcing himself to remain calm. "I need to understand what you really want out of all this. How do you see your past affecting our lives?" Emma's expression hardened, a flicker of defiance igniting within her. "What I want? I want my life, Jake. To be free of his shadow." He nodded, wrestling with his own defensive instincts. "But what does that mean for Lily? Will the past haunt us, too?" The question hung heavily in the air, forcing both into an uncomfortable silence. "I'm working on separating myself from him," she said, determination flickering in her gaze. "I can't let his mistakes define who I am or who I will become." The strength in her words simmered through him, crumpling the walls he fortified around himself. Here was a woman not just standing her ground, but ready to fight against everything that tried to keep her down. He had to choose between clinging to fear or embracing the possibility of trust. "I want to believe you," Jake said slowly, his sincerity shining through the cracks of his facade. "But can you really keep your distance from him? If I'm going to trust you, it has to be all in." Emma's features softened, a plea in her gaze. "Then let us make a plan," she suggested, the spark of their earlier connection reigniting. "Let us figure out how to navigate through this together." As they began to outline steps they would take, Jake's heart swelled with resolve. Perhaps they could emerge from this stronger, the fear receding as the shadows began to clear. But lurking in the back of his mind was a lingering thought: what if her father's reach was deeper than either of them realized? The moment of truth loomed closer. The real test of their alliance awaited. Would they uncover the truth together before it shattered their fragile new reality? Jake's resolve carried him through the moments that followed, the plan forming between them like a fragile bridge spanning a vast chasm of uncertainty. They set boundaries, established code words for Lily's safety, and decided to monitor Emma's father's movements quietly. Each word seemed to build confidence, yet beneath it all, Jake felt an unsettling tremor of doubt. With a heavy heart yet determined mind, he moved through the day in a haze, wrapping Lily in warmth while grappling with the shadows of the conversation. That evening, after tucking his daughter into bed, Jake stole a glance at Emma, who sat cross-legged on the living room floor, the remnants of their discussion still echoing in the silence around them. "Are you sure this is what you want?" he blurted out, the question spilling from his lips. Emma looked up, her eyes betraying her own conflict. "I have to try, Jake. I can't let him dictate my life anymore." The weight of his investment in her commitment bore down heavily. "But what if things go wrong? What if he retaliates? Then we will face it together. We have to believe that we can face him and whatever comes next." As they exchanged words, Jake felt an ember of hope igniting, pushing back against the shadows that filled him with dread. The determination in Emma's voice was a stark contrast to the fears that had haunted him. He realized he no longer wanted to shelter himself in doubt. He sensed the possibility of strength in vulnerability, in letting their shared journey unfold. The days rolled into a rhythm, each infused with a sense of cautious optimism. Jake found himself spending more time with Emma, digging into deeper conversations that stretched beyond mere survival. They began to share dreams, places they wanted to visit, life lessons they wanted to impart to Lily, and the futures they envisioned, free from the weight of the past. This connection transformed his world, awakening parts of himself he hadn't realized were dormant. His role as a father deepened. He guided Lily through her imaginative detective story, channeling their unfolding reality into her fictional world and encouraging her to think critically about the challenges faced by her characters. The simple act of helping her craft a storyline became almost cathartic, offering Jake a way to process his own tensions. Yet, the specter of Emma's father loomed nearby. Amid the light-hearted moments, Jake often caught himself scanning the horizon for signs of danger. He wouldn't acknowledge the prickling anxiety, but the thought nagged at him relentlessly. A disquieting notion lingered in his mind that leaving the past behind wouldn't come without cost. One afternoon, while rummaging through old family photos in the attic, Jake stumbled upon a snapshot of a younger Emma beaming beside her father. The warmth in her smile contrasted sharply with the dread now binding their lives. In that moment, he understood a visceral truth: regardless of the dynamics of their relationship, she would always be entangled in the web of her upbringing. Was he now building a life with someone who would never truly be free? The next evening, a text illuminated his phone screen, pulling him from his thoughts. A simple message from Emma, yet the words felt loaded, almost foreboding. "We need to talk. It's about my father." His heart raced, the tension igniting a fresh wave of urgency within him. The ground beneath their tentative structure of understanding felt unsteady. Would this conversation unfold in a way he could weather? Despite their progress, the looming question spiraled larger. Could truth forge a path toward resolve, or would it unravel everything they had built? As Jake took a breath, preparing himself for what was to come, he couldn't shake the feeling that the time had come to face something far greater than just Emma's past. A confrontation loomed on the horizon, and with it came the promise of change, either for better or worse. Jake sat in a chair across from Emma, the low light casting shadows that danced across her features. The weight of her last message pressed against his chest like a boulder. What revelation awaited them? In the fleeting moments of silence, he dissected his thoughts with surgical precision. Should he maintain space, or invite closeness in a moment that felt all too fragile? Emma finally met his gaze, her expression a blend of fear and resolve. "I've been thinking a lot about my father," she started, her voice trembling slightly as if it might crack under the pressure of the truth. "I can't run from him forever. It's not just about avoiding him, it's about confronting him." His brow furrowed, the prospect sounded dire and exhilarating in equal measure. "Confronting him? What does that look like for you?" "I want to meet him," she replied, her voice steadying with each word. "I need to tell him I'm done being afraid." Jake's instinct was to push back, to protect her from the storm he could sense brewing, but as she spoke, a flicker of admiration ignited within him. He understood the courage it took to embrace the darkness that lingered from her past. But still, doubt gnawed at him. "You've been through so much. What if he doesn't let you walk away again?" Emma paused, breathing deeply, then leaned forward, eyes ablaze with determination. "Then I'll stand my ground. I'm not the same person I was, Jake. I need to know that if I'm going to move forward, I can confront what holds me back." His chest constricted at the realization. It wasn't just about confronting a father, it was about her reclaiming power. What would it mean for them if she stepped into her truth? Yet, fear flickered in the air between them. Despite their growing bond, a confrontation of such magnitude could either shatter them or solidify the foundation they were attempting to build. "I want to support you," Jake finally said, his voice filling the silence. "But we need a plan. If this opens Pandora's box, we need to know how to handle it." Her expression shifted, composed and focused, yet acknowledgement of the stakes loomed large. "I'll need you with me, Jake. I can't do this alone. Not again." The thought was raw and vulnerable, and Jake felt the depth of it ripple through the fragile fabric of their relationship. He had spent so long shielding himself from emotional entanglements, fearing connection. Here was the first, truly muscular pull of accountability, a shared journey into a darkness only they could navigate together. "I'll be there," he affirmed, but the shadow of trepidation lingered over his promise. The scope of what lay ahead was enormous, yet Jake also recognized the chance for personal growth. He had to confront his own fears, his own hesitations to truly support Emma. Days turned into restless nights. Jake strategized, balancing parenting and planning, all while harboring doubts. He spoke to Emma more about the kind of support she needed. They rehearsed conversations, acted out scenarios, but ultimately it was her resolve that assuaged his fear. Her strength began to shape him. He could feel the cracks of his own guarded demeanor peeling away. He was evolving, learning to face his fears through her audacity. Finally, the day arrived. Emma stood on the brink of her past as they pulled into the driveway of her childhood home. Jake clutched the steering wheel, palms slick with sweat. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice low and steady. Emma nodded, determination blazing in her eyes. More than ever. As they stepped out into the sunlight, Jake kept a watchful eye, tension coiling within him. Just outside, a shadow moved. It was her father, looming in the doorway, a specter from another life. The moment hung in the air, heavy with promise, a beginning emerging from the ashes of fear. What would transpire within that threshold could either liberate Emma or threaten to trap them both. That he felt the ground shift beneath them. Could they honestly withstand the weight of unveiling truth? The air felt charged, electric with unspoken resolutions. Jake braced himself for the unfolding confrontation, aware that whatever happened next would leave an indelible mark on both their lives. Would this encounter herald a breakthrough or spark a descent into chaos? He steadied his breathing, ready to support Emma against the unknown. In the split second before they crossed the threshold, he realized one undeniable truth. They weren't just facing a past filled with shadows, they were standing on the cusp of an uncertain future, one that could carve their narratives anew. Would they emerge united, an impenetrable team, or would this journey reveal cracks deeper than they anticipated? As they approached the door, Jake felt time stretch and contract in a surreal twist. His heart raced, fueled by a cocktail of anxiety and adrenaline. What would Emma say? Would she find the words she so desperately needed? Each step toward her father felt like a leap deeper into an abyss, yet also an opportunity he had never expected. Emma took a deep breath, her fingers brushing against his arm, not for assurance, but as a declaration of solidarity. It dawned on Jake that while he had committed to being her support, she was inadvertently bolstering his own resolve. The way she confronted fear transformed how he faced his own. Wasn't he that growth? A synchronicity of strength emerging from vulnerability. As they paused before the doorway, a simple thought flickered in his mind. He might not just be the follower in this moment but could become an advocate for both of their paths. The weight of responsibility was shifting, inviting him to take on a more pivotal role. Jake realized that his presence had significance. He could be the steadying force as Emma navigated her own stormy waters. Emma knocked, the sound reverberating in the stillness. Jake noticed her posture shift, her shoulders squared, her chin held high, the embodiment of defiance in the face of a past steeped in fear. He admired her. She was no longer the girl who hid from memories but a woman ready to reclaim her life. The door opened slowly, revealing her father as surprised expression. The man bore years of bruised choices and mistakes etched in deep lines on his face. An aura of uncertainty hung around him, cloaking the threshold in a palpable trepidation. "Emma," he finally said, his voice bordering on incredulous. "What are you doing here?" Jake's instinct was to move forward, to shield Emma from potential harm, but he held his ground, allowing her to guide this encounter. It was her moment. He could feel the electricity crackle in the air as she responded, "I'm here to talk." The word "talk" lingered, hanging in the silence like a fragile thread. Jake's heart hammered in his chest, bracing himself for the inevitable storm. He focused on Emma's face, searching for any sign of wavering resolve, but all he found was determination, a reflection of her journey thus far. "I need to understand why you abandoned us," she continued, her voice steady like a lighthouse guiding the way through choppy waters. The confrontation that followed was layered and clouded with years of resentment and pain, every word a stone thrown across the tumultuous divide between father and daughter. Jake felt a swell of pride, feeling the edges of his own fears soften under Emma's fierce will. As the conversation unfolded, he witnessed her refusing to dissolve into fear or doubt. Instead, she stood firm, reclaiming pieces of her past while laying groundwork for an uncharted future. This was growth, the unmistakable transformation of someone stepping into their own light, but beneath it, a shadow of his personal battle lingered. Fearing abandonment, Jake had avoided situations that called for emotional exposure. Emma was cracking that shell, unearthing layers of a pained past he had tucked away deep within himself. He was a single father, yes, but that didn't diminish the potential for growth within his own narrative. If anything, it added complexity and urgency to confront what lay before. As the moments unraveled in poignant dialogue, Jake felt a sense of clarity amidst the chaos. He wasn't merely an observer, he was an integral part of this story. The time had come for him to share his own journey with Emma, revealing dreams and aspirations he buried under the weight of doubt. When the conversation finally reached a pause, he chose that moment to speak, drawing inspiration from Emma's courage. He would confront his own fears, his uncertainties about their bond, the future, and the risks inherent in sharing vulnerabilities. "Emma," he said, catching her eye, when you talk about reclaiming your life, it resonates. I've been so afraid to embrace my own. You might be lifting me too. Their eyes locked, and at that moment, Jake understood the profound connection they were forging, one that transcended obstacles and fears. Would they emerge together, both transformed in tandem? Would the confrontation with her father forge a deeper bond or fracture the delicate foundation they were beginning to build? The pressure in the air surged once more as Emma turned back to her father, ready to delve deeper into the truth. In that silence between breaths, Jake held on to the hope of what lay ahead, uncertain yet resolute in the knowledge that change was imminent. The conversation hung in the air, thick with unspoken truths. Emma's father seemed to shrink under the weight of her fierce inquiry, but the moment wasn't just about Emma reclaiming lost power, it was about Jake too, standing on the precipice of his own fears. As he processed her father's hesitant responses, a realization coursed through him. This encounter mirrored many aspects of his own life. He had spent countless hours hiding behind the armor of responsibility, suppressing his ambitions to protect Emma and their little world. But watching Emma face her demons, confidence blazing, sparked a wildfire of determination within him. He began to question why he hadn't done the same for himself. With every reply Emma's father offered, Jake contemplated his own past decisions, mistakes he had buried to avoid the risk of rehashing old wounds. He had always reasoned that sticking to the known, his job at the warehouse, ensuring stability for Emma, was the righteous choice. Yet, why was he so willing to let fear dictate what he believed was necessary? Wasn't it time to pursue his own aspirations, the dreams that flickered faintly in his heart? The idea pounded in his mind, each beat synchronized with Emma's rising voice. You chose to leave, but I'm choosing to stand here, she declared, raw emotion threading through her words. Jake watched as her bravery unfolded and realized it was not just about confronting a father but about becoming a version of herself she had long forgotten, one who could face any storm. Feeling the swell of inspiration, Jake took a step closer to Emma. His medical technician courses had been set aside in favor of a steady paycheck working overtime. His head filled with doubt, convinced it was impractical. After all, juggling school, a job, and parenthood seemed insurmountable. Yet Emma was here, defying obstacles with every syllable emerging from her lips. If she could rediscover herself, maybe he could reclaim his dreams too. When Emma glanced at him, seeking support and perhaps a sign of solidarity, Jake met her gaze with newfound clarity. Their journeys intertwined, and in that moment, he silently vowed to step out of his own shadows. No longer would he be the passive player in his life. The confrontation reached a fever pitch as Emma's father stumbled over his words, pleading for understanding, but Jake was diverting his focus inward now. The conversation crystallized his burgeoning resolve. If Emma could reject inaction in favor of her own growth, so could he. He opened his mouth to speak, a surge of excitement tinged with fear. Emma, I feel like I've missed the chance to follow my own dreams, he interjected, his voice steady. I can't let fear hold me back anymore. What do you think? Should we both start taking risks together? In that pivotal moment, he saw a flicker of joy illuminate Emma's eyes, not just for herself but for him too. They were no longer merely mirroring each other's struggles, but actively stepping toward their own destinies together. Suddenly, the door swung wider, revealing the father's troubled expression, filled with concern but laced with frustration. The father's uncertainty about how to mend what was broken seemed to diminish in importance next to the revelation sparking within Jake. Jake felt that urge to take immediate action, to set into motion the possibilities unfolding before him. Emma, let us together tackle not just your past but also our future. It felt audacious, dangerously so, but thrilling nonetheless. As the silence enveloped them once again, Jake realized they were on an inevitable path towards self-discovery, not just for Emma, but for himself as well. Could confronting the specter of their pasts truly pave the way for a brighter future? Would the angst of their reunion unlock a wellspring of courage needed to pursue what truly mattered? The moment of truth pulsated in the air, leaving them suspended between revelation and resolution, and Jake knew action was just around the corner, each breath a step into an unknown future. Would they courageously explore it together, or would fear continue to define their journey? Jake felt the weight of Emma's words settle within him, urging him to take that leap he had long avoided. They stood there, a daughter poised to reclaim her own narrative and a father figure awakening to the notion of his own desires. The air teemed with tension, a raw energy that coaxed him to confront his own choices as much as Emma was confronting her past, that he couldn't ignore the growing ember of determination ignited by witnessing Emma's resolve. Suddenly, the mundane worries of balancing his job and parenthood appeared trivial in comparison to pursuing the latent dreams he'd relegated to the back burner. What had once felt out of reach now seemed anchored with possibility. Jake could feel that this moment was pivotal, not just for Emma but for him as well. As they absorbed the weight of their respective battles, Jake became acutely aware of the questions swirling within him. What was stopping him from enrolling back in school? What fears lay beneath the surface, deterring him from risking failure? The heaviness of expectation had shackled him to complacency for far too long. If Emma could stand and summon her courage in front of her father, then couldn't he summon his own when faced with the daunting prospect of change? Suddenly, a sense of urgency surged through him. He turned to Emma, his heart pounding as inspiration yanked him from indecision. What if we made a plan, you and I? A real one. We can support each other, tackle this together. The words spilled out, fueled by a newfound excitement that threatened to overwhelm him. He could feel a slight tremor in his hands, a mix of adrenaline and fear taking hold as he proposed the idea. Emma regarded him with wide eyes, her expression oscillating between surprise and anticipation. The notion of jointly transforming their lives must have resonated deeply within her. Jake could see the cogs of her mind turning, mirroring the same internal debate he had been wrestling with. Are you serious? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Absolutely, he replied, his conviction grounding both of them. I've been hiding behind stability for too long. But look at you, you're ready to claim what's yours. Let us not stop there. Let us tackle our dreams together. For the first time in a long while, Jake felt a rush of clarity. Emma's uncertain path cemented his commitment to bolster his own trajectory. The conversation with her father faded into the background as Jake visualized a roadmap that led them both toward their aspirations: late-night study sessions, calculated risks in the realm of his career, and powerful conversations that unpeeled layers of fear. But even as he envisioned their futures, anxiety lurking beneath the surface whispered its doubts. Was it possible to juggle these ambitions while still being a present father? Was he truly ready to confront the frustration of falling short in front of Emma? He took a deep breath, forcing his fears back onto the periphery. Let us start by setting tangible goals, he continued, determination lacing his voice. How about I look into my old courses tonight? And you, what about exploring your passions or searching for internships? Emma bit her lower lip, the tension of their discussion palpable. That sounds good, she said, a hesitant smile breaking through. I think I'll start by finding some volunteer opportunities related to what I really want to do. It might help me figure out my next steps. In that moment, Jake saw a shift in her demeanor. Brightness returned to her eyes, and it ignited an even greater resolve within him. They were harnessing their shared energy, planning, setting intention. But alongside the thrill of progress, he sensed the shadows of uncertainty still encroaching. Could they truly hold one another up in times of doubt? As they stood side by side, their fates intertwined, Jake became acutely aware that the true challenge lay not only in ambition but also in the vulnerability of growth. The realization struck him this was just the beginning. Emma, if we hit a wall, how do we keep moving forward? He asked, probing the foundation of their fledgling partnership. Emma paused, her brows stitched with thought. We talk. We can't back down, right? We don't take silence for an answer anymore. Jake nodded, a wave of gratitude rushing through him. It was a powerful declaration, underscoring the path they were carving. As they shifted their focus from the past to future possibilities, he fully embraced the transformative journey awaiting them both. Yet, as the air thickened with resolve, he also grappled with the chilling realization: they would both need to confront their fears head-on if they were to abandon the crippling grip of doubt. What awaited was a venture into the deeply uncomfortable spaces. Would they dare proceed where failure loomed, ready to dismantle their growing confidence? Jake's heart raced. His mind buzzed. Could they truly navigate this uncharted territory together, or would their ambitions shatter under the weight of their old insecurities? The next morning, Jake's resolve felt both terrifying and exhilarating. As sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the remnants of yesterday's conversation, he sensed an invisible shift within himself. He approached the table, his old laptop open and waiting like a blank canvas. Flipping it on, the familiar whir of technology provided a strange comfort. What would his first step be? His mind raced through options: financial aid forms, course catalogs, advisory minutes. Each click of the mouse felt monumental, yet there was a gnawing anxiety beneath it all, a whisper reminding him of every academic misstep from his past. As he opened the browser, he caught his reflection in the screen's glossy surface. His face bore the same weariness, the same uncertainties that haunted him daily. He logged into the educational portal with reluctant speed. This is just research, he reminded himself, trying to convince the hesitant parts of his psyche that progress was a series of small actions. Yet, as he navigated through programs, he found himself grappling with more profound questions. What if these dreams weren't just whims? What if there was a latent part of him still yearning for intellectual engagement and professional growth? He longed not only for personal success but also for a role model that Emma could look up to as she ventured into her own transformation. A message pinged from Emma's phone. It was a notification about a local community event that showcased volunteer opportunities. He hesitated, then responded encouragingly. Sounds perfect. Just don't stretch yourself too thin, he sent her with a playful emoji, masking his concern. But a greater dread accompanied his encouragement. The thought of Emma thriving while he faltered loomed over him. What if she became the success story he'd always wanted to be? He shifted his focus back to the courses available for enrollment, forcing himself to stay present. Scrolling through the curriculum, he stopped abruptly at an entrepreneurial program. Ideas flared in his mind, a passion awakened from dormancy. Wasn't this the very nexus where his past experiences and future hopes collided? The listed projects echoed the visions he'd had with Emma: startups that changed lives, community efforts that mattered. Finally letting go of his hesitation, he completed the registration process. Each step felt like peeling back a layer of protective skin. What had previously felt like an insurmountable mountain now seemed like a series of manageable hills, each conquerable with the right preparation and support. But as he confirmed his enrollment, the buzz of uncertainty resounded in his chest. He took a moment to breathe deeply, allowing the weight of decision to settle over him. This was not merely a commitment to learning, it was a pledge to confront the fear that had shadowed him for years. Later, when Emma arrived home, rejuvenated after her morning of outreach, her energy surged through the space like wind through flora. She plopped her bag on the table, animatedly sharing details about a local shelter needing volunteers. His heart swelled with pride. She was finding her voice, her purpose, her path. "Hey, guess what?" he said, the excitement barely contained in his voice. "I signed up for the entrepreneurial program at the community college. Just got the confirmation." Emma's eyes widened, her excitement bubbling over. "That's amazing, Dad. We can help each other navigate this stuff." Her enthusiasm felt contagious, but Jake's stomach twisted at the thought. The idea of standing shoulder to shoulder as mere learners was daunting. He wasn't just worried about failing himself, he was terrified of being a cautionary tale in Emma's journey, a living reminder of pursuit abandoned. "How do we help each other, really?" he asked, searching her gaze for the depth of understanding he craved. "We keep each other accountable. And when it feels tough, we remind each other why we started," she replied, her sincerity shining through. And nodding, Jake found that strength pulsing through him. This newfound partnership had roots deeper than obligation, they were tethered by shared vulnerability and ambition. But with every triumph came the specter of their old insecurities. The awareness of potential failure whispered, still would they both crumble under the weight of their dreams? That night, as exhaustion washed over him, Jake lay in bed contemplating how their shared journey could evaporate under harsh realities. He knew they needed to fortify their emotional groundwork. He had to ensure that behind the bravado of ambition, they would not lose everything to doubt when risk reared its head. The next morning, he resolved to revisit the conversation. They had answered questions about ambition, but now they needed to tackle the fears that loomed ahead. As the world awoke around him, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that a reckoning was coming, one that could redirect their course infinitely. Could they remain steadfast as their aspirations took shape? The stakes felt higher, the journey fraught with challenges that loomed just out of sight. Would they both find the resolve to hold fast against the encroaching uncertainties, or would they falter when true pressure emerged? With a deep breath, he knew the answers lay in the navigating of their shared fears, a journey poised to unfold imminently. Jake Thompson stood in the garage, the soft hum of machinery surrounding him, yet he felt profoundly serene. The culmination of weeks spent navigating uncertainty and ambition had forged an unexpected sense of clarity in his heart. He had not only registered for the entrepreneurial program but also tackled the demons of doubt that had haunted him far too long. In the midst of his mechanical work, he poured thoughts into the new plans he envisioned. Each stroke of the wrench mirrored the momentum building in his life, reclaiming his dreams, bit by bit. Jake had learned the delicate balance between duties and aspirations, and now he couldn't help but feel buoyed by this newfound confidence. Emma had blossomed in tandem. Each shared moment in their respective journeys, her volunteering and seeking her calling, and him diving into academic resurgence, had forged an indelible bond of trust and support. No longer were they merely navigating the chaos of her father's legacy, they were redefining their futures together, step by resolute step. The past weeks had seen them exchanging ideas over coffee-drenched late-night study sessions. They pored over entrepreneurial literature, sharing dreams and fears in the fire-lit glow of their modest living room. Each hushed conversation unraveled the landscape of uncertainty that had once enveloped them, a landscape now populated with bright plans and revived aspirations. Jake committed himself to not just being a father but to manifesting his own ambitions. The fear that had once held him captive began to dissipate under the weight of active resolve. He relished the newfound clarity in their relationship. Emma wasn't just a babysitter, she had evolved into a collaborator, a partner in ambition. Together, they sought avenues toward success, her dreams integrated seamlessly with his, igniting a fierce determination within them both. That evening, with both of them seated at the dinner table adorned with hastily written notes and textbooks, Jake took a moment to pause and breathe. "Emma," he said, capturing her focus as she scribbled ideas down, "I want you to know how proud I am of you. You're actively engaging with your past, not letting it define who you are. It reminds me to do the same." She lifted her gaze, a glimmer of acknowledgement passing between them. "Dad, I wouldn't have found my footing without you. You've taken such a leap yourself. We're doing this together, and it feels incredible." Jake nodded, his heart swelling. As their conversation continued, he summoned the courage to share the contours of his fears, the lingering thoughts about his prior failures, the impetus that he might not measure up to the commitment he now felt. "Sometimes, I worry about not being sufficient, that I'll falter again. What if it all unravels? Then we'll face it together," Emma replied firmly. "We'll learn from it, just like we always have." Her words resonated deeply. A mutual promise forged in vulnerability cemented their resolve. They both knew that daring to embrace the unknown would demand courage, an endeavor that required mutual accountability. As days morphed into weeks, the semester unfolded with gratifying challenges and fulfilling victories. Jake found himself immersed in business strategy lessons, collaborating with classmates, and devising solutions that reflected his growing competence. The shackles of his past were beginning to rust, kept at bay by the vivid aspirations born from his dedication. One fateful afternoon, however, the storm he had always anticipated appeared: an email from Emma's father, demanding a meeting to discuss family matters. A sense of dread coiled around him as the memories of her father's shadow coursed back. Emma looked at him, her expression revealing an impenetrable spirit. "We faced him before, remember? This time, we're prepared." "Right, but there's a difference. But we are different now too," she interjected, determination woven into each word. "We can show him we're not afraid of his consequences." Her strength infused Jake with renewed resolve, spurring him beyond the trepidation. A confrontation could either solidify their growth or cleave it in two. In that moment, he recognized the echo of foreboding from his past, a specter wanting to intimidate him, but he was no longer the man who succumbed to fear. "Let us do this," Jake affirmed, gripping her hand firmly. "Together, as we always have." And in that shared moment, an undeniable transformation flicked alive within him. He understood that they weren't merely preparing for a confrontation, they were both poised to enact change, both as individuals and as a partnership. A definitive new chapter, forged from fearlessness and courage, awaited them. As they sat down to rehearse their approach, a comforting weight settled over them, a shared understanding that no matter the outcome, they had grown immeasurably over this journey. Each lesson had bridged the gap between who they were and who they aspired to become. The next day, as they approached Emma's father's office, Jake felt the surge of anticipation intermingle with vulnerability. He wasn't just participating, he was an active architect of their destinies. They stood tall, prepared for a new frontier as they faced the man who had once threatened the integrity of their lives. In that pivotal moment, crossing the threshold from mere existence into a life led by purpose and resilience, he profoundly recognized a singular truth: growth was crafted through risk, where fear was merely the beginning of a more profound journey. Together, they would unveil the richness of their potential, rewriting their stories parallel to one another. As they opened the door, fury and retribution felt light years away, for the heavier mantle now rested on their connection, not on the scars of the past, but on the diverse opportunities shimmering in their future. They faced the unfolding narrative together, united in purpose, challenging the very forces that sought to define them, forever altered by the journey they had embarked on. Together, and determined to thrive, regardless of the obstacles that lay ahead. Now, true fans of personal transformation and growth, I urge you to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure more incredible narratives reach those who need them. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. This is your moment to show support and spread the impact of profound stories. Don't wait even one more second, join in today.